Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the December 2020 quarterly meeting of the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. We welcome everyone this morning. Appreciate you joining us. We'd like to go into the Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Burris, would you please lead us in that?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
And Commissioner Hester, would you please lead us or conduct the invocation?
Yes, ma'am. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day and for each blessing. Lord, we ask that you continue to watch over our brothers and sisters that are out working every day. We pray for a hedge of protection around them to bring them home safe to their families. Lord, we ask that you be with those that we've lost in the line of duty and give their family peace and comfort. We pray for healing for our nation. We ask for a hedge of protection for our nation and for our state. Be with us today as we make decisions and that they be pleasing to you. Forgive us where we fail you. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very, very much. Ms. Jackson, would you please conduct roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Kim Lameau.
Here.
Commissioner Jason Hester.
Here.
Commissioner Patricia Burris.
Here.
Commissioner Ron Hood.
Here.
Commissioner Jack Taylor.
Here.
Commissioner Sharon Thomas. Commissioner Tim Whitaker.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Jana Atkins.
Here.
Commissioner Michael Griffiths.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I hope all of you had a good Thanksgiving. And again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us here today. We're going to get right into the agenda. Go to agenda item number 2, and Director Grigsby, would you please read the name of the police officers and jailers who have given their lives in service to Texas and to their communities, please?
Good morning, Commissioners. I will first be reading the line of duty deaths, and then we'll read the names of those who had passed away from COVID-19. Of course, as we've talked about in the previous meetings, as far as the official memorial goes, those will be determined by ERS as far as whether they were approved for benefits. But for the line of duty deaths since the previous meeting, first we had Investigator Lemuel Delray Bruce, Houston Fire Marshal's Department, end of watch, Friday, October 16th, 2020. Investigator Bruce was shot and killed about 3:30 a.m. while conducting surveillance as part of an ongoing arson investigation into a string of vehicle fires. Investigator Bruce noticed a car matching the description of a vehicle seen where another vehicle fire had been set minutes earlier. He was attempting to coordinate a stop of the vehicle when the man opened fire on him, striking him multiple times. Despite his wounds, Investigator Bruce was able to return fire. Investigator Bruce was a U.S. Marine Corps veteran. He had served with the Houston Fire Department for 16 years and had been assigned to the Houston Fire Marshal's office as a sworn arson investigator for 5 years. He is survived by his wife, 12-year-old daughter, and 8-year-old son. Next is Sergeant Harold L. Preston, Houston Police Department, end of watch, Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. Sergeant Preston was shot and killed as he and other officers responded to a domestic disturbance call. Police were called to the scene by a woman who had been locked out of her apartment by her estranged husband and was attempting to retrieve belongings. Sergeant Preston and another officer spoke to the woman for approximately an hour before her son managed to unlock the apartment door and encountered his father holding a gun. The man opened fire, striking Sergeant Preston numerous times in the head and upper body. Sergeant Preston had served with the Houston Police Department for 41 years and was scheduled to retire in the coming weeks. He is survived by his parents and his fiance. And next we have Sergeant Sean Rios, Houston Police Department, end of watch November 9th, 2020. Sergeant Rios was shot and killed while en route to start his shift at George Bush Intercontinental Airport. He encountered two vehicles and an armed man on the roadway and became engaged in a shootout with the subject. Sergeant Rios was fatally wounded in the shootout. He had served with the Houston Police Department for 25 years and is survived by 4 children, his parents, a brother, and 2 cousins who also work with the Houston Police Department. And next we have our COVID deaths, which will begin with Corporal Charles E. Holt, Tarrant County Sheriff's Office, end of watch September 1st, 2020. Corrections Officer Susan Ann Roberts, Williamson County Sheriff's Office, September 12th, 2020. Deputy Sheriff Christopher Smith, McLennan County Sheriff's Office, September 21st, 2020. Corrections Officer Donald E. Parker, Texas Department of Criminal Justice, October 1st, 2020. Sergeant Dennis R. Oliver, Jr., Highland Village Police Department, October 2nd, 2020. Police Officer Alex Arango, Everman Police Department, October 22nd, 2020. Deputy Sheriff Raul Gomez, Wharton County Sheriff's Office, October 26th, 2020. Deputy Sheriff Johnny R. Trunchus, Harris County Sheriff's Office, November 3rd, 2020. Officer Domingo Jasso III, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection, November 5th, 2020. And finally, Senior Police Officer Ernest Leal, Jr., Houston Police Department, November 27th, 2020.
Madam Chair, your line's muted.
The hazards of online. Commissioner Whitaker, our deepest condolences to you and Chief Acevedo and your entire department. I know you've had a difficult few months. So would you all join me in a moment of silence as we honor these women and men? Thank you. We'll move to agenda item number 3, the approval of the minutes from the September 3rd, 2020 quarterly commission meeting. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the September 3rd, 2020 quarterly commission.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Jackson.
Commissioner Burris,
Yay.
Commissioner Griffiths,
Yay.
Commissioner Hester,
Yay.
Commissioner Hood,
Yay.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yay.
Commissioner Whitaker,
Yay.
Commissioner Lameau,
Yay.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yay.
Motion passes. We will move to agenda item number 4 and receive reports from the TCOLE staff. Executive Director Vickers.
Good
Good morning,
morning. Good to see all of y'all. I wish we could do this in person. Maybe we'll be able to do that in March. It's still very questionable, but it's much more fun when I can look and see you in person. You have your normal documents, your budget status, the cash flow reports, and the criminal misconduct quarterly report are items, attachments into your packet. I do have a few things I want to talk to you about this morning, and naturally the one that seems to be on everybody's mind to start with is the sunset review. I'll tell you that overall, and I'm going to be saying the same thing Monday morning. We have our public hearing Monday morning. They're being a little bit tight on who they're allowing to be there. I think that they're trying to keep it as the numbers as restricted as possible. But I'll say the same thing Monday morning. We had, I think, a pretty positive experience with Sunset this time. I came into it with some trepidation, not knowing, just knowing that things I'd heard in the past. But overall, I was very pleased with the way Sunset went. They had very good questions. They had good insight into a lot of what the issues that we face are. Matter of fact, they honed in immediately on things that I've been talking about for quite some time. And we've had a lot of feedback. I think it's interesting. We've had some feedback from around the state, people that are some that I know that are friends of ours and some that haven't always been friends of ours, but they seem to be a little upset about it, thinking that Sunset was pretty hard on us. I really don't think they were that hard on us. They were hard on our law enforcement processes, but they didn't blame it on the agency. And I for the most part, we agree with nearly, at least in principle, we agree with almost everything that they said. We've had a very interesting and challenging budget request time this time due to uncertainty of what might happen in the upcoming session. Naturally, this challenge was exacerbated by the fact that we were undergoing Sunset at the time, and we were getting ideas of the directions that they would like to see TCOLE take, and the resources that it would take to make those changes happen. That's where most of the challenges came in. We couldn't count on anything specific that we think will change, but we also couldn't ignore the possibility that Sunset's calling for some pretty sweeping changes, and we're getting a substantial number of calls from legislators and interest from legislators wanting to look at change. And so we've got to be prepared for some degree of change while at the same time not counting on anything. So it made a very, very interesting LAR process, budget process, to say the least. Each of you should have received a copy of the Sunset staff report with the suggestions for the Sunset Commission. One thing I've had to be sure and tell people around the state that the document that you received is not set in stone changes at all for the commission. Those are suggestions from Sunset staff that go to the Sunset Commission, and that public hearing, when they start to make those decisions on where they want to see us go and what results they want to see from that study, that process begins on Monday. So anything you read there is not absolute. Those are just suggestions that the Sunset staff has made to the commission, Sunset Commission. We think there's going to be some pretty good changes, and we have some ideas about that. And like I said, ongoing conversations with some legislators. I think that it's going to be an interesting time, a very, very interesting time over the next year. I also want to mention some COVID issues in the office. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we've had 2 staff members test positive. We have been able to, luckily, the ones that tested positive were not widespread through much of the office, and a lot of people that were around them at any given time have all tested negative, so we didn't have any kind of spread through the office. Our staff, for the most part, is still working quite a bit remotely. We do have more people in the office now than we did when this whole thing started, but for the most part, I mean, we do have a significant number still working remotely and working from home to try to keep things safe. We've put pretty significant processes, I believe, in place to ensure that the office tries to be as safe as possible. We've got a policy in place on how to return if you've had any kind of exposure, any kind of issues like that. We bought a thank you, Jason, for suggestions of a company. We bought a sanitizing spraying device and some disinfectant, the same one that DPS uses. And at least once a week, we douse down the whole office and keep everything safe as much as we can and try to keep a safe working environment for our staff here. That's about all I have for you just up front. Unless you have questions for me, we can move on to the next report. Oh, I do have one more thing. I'm sorry, before we go any further. I have had requests from commissioners in the past about kind of a year-end wrap-up of the fiscal position of the agency. And I have asked Brian to be prepared to come in as a kind of dovetail into the end of my report and give you that report. So Brian, if you're there and you're ready, I would appreciate it if you go ahead and do that synopsis of the kind of a snapshot of where we stand on the end of the year and take it from that point. Brian, are you there?
I am. For some reason, my camera's not working well, but hopefully everybody can hear me. Thank you, commissioners. Good morning. I'd like to just hand out a few highlights from fiscal year 2020. We operated under 3 grants that fiscal year. We were able to provide a lot of good school marshal training that ended up being about $106,000. We wound down 1 curriculum grant for $27,000, and we spun up the next curriculum grant at about $28,000. I know 2019 calendar seems a long time away, but we actually had a TCOLE conference in this fiscal year. It was in October 21st to 24th, 2019. That was a successful TCOLE conference. That was about $189,000. Of course, this year's conference is canceled. And if you see any expenses related to conference this year, they will be just laying the groundwork for the next fiscal year conference. In the HR realm, we lost 3 grant employees with the expiration of a curriculum grant from the governor's office. We also had 3 retirements, Susan Brundage, Kenny Merchant, and Mary Kay Wright. No new hires were made due to a statewide hiring freeze. The dust hasn't completely settled on the fiscal year, but we ended the year in the black. And like other state agencies, TCOLE has a mandated 5% cut to make out of FY's 20 and 21 appropriations. For us, that 5% amount is about $338,000. With what we've lapsed so far in FY20, we've got over half of that liability covered. So 2021, trying to get the rest of that 5% cut in, hopefully won't be as painful. We've also continued our border security initiative. And of course, we underwent the strategic review process with the LBB, and we're currently undergoing the sunset process, as Kim mentioned earlier. Looking forward to the current fiscal year 21, it'll probably be really similar to FY20 with continued influence from COVID. Of course, the conference was canceled. The next conference will be November. It was scheduled for November 7th through 12th, 2020. A good thing, we're on track to update multiple law enforcement training courses with our curriculum grant. Those are coming in partnership with TEACS, some high quality material we're happy to be making available very soon to our licensees. We have already begun to implement multiple sunset staff report recommendations that don't have a high price tag, such as employee training, including contract performance incentives, having a standardized complaint form, etc. And I'm sure Gretchen will go over this a little bit with you, but 2021, as you know, is a legislative year, and we'll be letting you know much more on that as the year goes on, what eventually will come out of the session. That is my report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Brian, do you anticipate the remainder of the 5% cut to be met through salary savings from vacant positions?
Yes, Commissioner. It'll be a combination of reduced salary because of the hiring freeze and also reduced travel. Those were both components of the governor's mandate for state agencies.
And commissioners, any questions of Executive Director Vickers or Mr. Roth? Commissioner
Madam
Hester.
Chair. Director Vickers, and maybe this will be covered by one of the other directors here later, but has there been any discussion about training requirements, easing that, or what's the stance for you guys on the hour requirements, certificate requirements, and all those different things given the current COVID issue? You know, there's rolling timelines for everyone, right? Depending on when you get your license and the requirements and those different things. And so I just didn't know what the stance was, or maybe that's something that credentialing or somebody else is going to cover.
No, I'd be glad to address that, Commissioner Hester, and thank you. It's a good question. It's difficult. It's a difficult time. We have already started making some allowances with the permission of the governor's office on, because some of this stuff is statutory and it takes special permission to be able to get it to have variances and stuff. But we've already started making some that make it easier on some agencies around the state, especially like sheriff's offices with temporary jailers. We've eased off on some of those restrictions. Those kind of changes have already been made. It's been difficult to tie down exactly what I think will happen on continuing education, because it's still several months away. It's not due till August 31st. I've had multiple requests from especially larger agencies, long talk with Chief Acevedo in Houston specifically, among others, about how difficult it is for them to catch up. They've shut down their training since March, and how difficult it is for an agency that size to catch up. I'm sure DPS is in a lot of the same boat when you don't have training for long periods of time. We have multiple ideas on how to address that. There are different ways you can look at it. What we've done in the past, like when the hurricane hit that affected training so much, is we deferred the cutoff date. The trouble I have with that this time, that we deferred at that time for 1 month, and we're still dealing with the ripple effect and the fallout from that 1 month deal, even with training issues that come up now. This would have to take like a 6 month at least deferment of that, and the issues that causes with TCOLEs, with trying to do inactive, with trying to do in that 6 month time. If they do training, do they get double credit for it? Credit for both units? If you say no, they only go with it counts for the past unit, then you're doubling up their training they have to do for the next unit. It just gets it's very complicated, and we have not come to a resolution. We have been in discussions with the governor's office about it. I have some very specific ideas, since this is I don't want to come out in a public forum and talk about them, because I don't know if that's the direction it's going to go, and I don't want that as a misunderstanding out in the state. Well, Vickers said we're going to do this, and I don't have that authority at this point to make that kind of decision. But I have some ideas. We're just trying to work with the governor's office to see if we can come up with the most usable, acceptable way to get that done, that recognizes the challenges that COVID has brought to police training and timing and all this stuff. So it is being addressed. There's nothing definite yet. And as we go a little closer to August, I hope sooner than later, I want to have something that we know we're going to do and have in place for that. But it's not finalized yet. And I'd be happy off camera to talk to you about ideas that I might have. Any of you that might be interested, please feel free to contact me, or I can be glad to contact you and talk to you about it and get your feedback on it. But we have some ideas on it. It's just nothing's finalized yet.
I know from the profession perspective, you know, that it's an issue, you know, it's what's on people's minds. And then you take into account, like we always talk about, you take into account the large agencies to the small agencies and the vast differences within the state. So, but I appreciate that information. Thank you. I don't have anything else, Madam Chair.
Director Vickers, do you anticipate having, I guess, more solid information for the March meeting? I know that by March, I think we'll have a lot of anxious head of agencies and training directors that will be wanting some type of specific answer.
Yes, ma'am. I understand that, and I'm a little anxious about it myself. So I will guarantee you. You tell me March is when you'd like to see it. I hope to have it some sort of thing in place where we can let the population, our population at large, understand what requirements are going to be there long before March. But I'll have you an answer at March for sure. We'll have something set out where we can, because it's going to take us at least from March to August to get ready for whatever change that is. And because these kind of things require some real work behind the scenes, and we need to be prepared for that. So yes, ma'am, I'll have you say, if I don't have something before for y'all, I'll have it by March.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to Director Antu's reports.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Just a couple items. I would have said this in the last meeting, but unfortunately I had to miss. I want to give some kudos to Jessica Capraro and her IT team for our COVID deployment. When all this happened, nobody was really ready for it. But when the decision was made and the call was sent out to deploy everyone home, her and her team were able to get everyone equipped and deployed home within 48 hours, and all operations continued that next day. We had no loss of service. Phone calls were still being made. Certificates were being processed. Everything that we do, L1s and rosters, continued without no break in service there, and that was to their quick deployment and Jessica's coordination to get that out there. So I definitely wanted to say they rose up to the occasion on that one. Unexpectedly, we threw it at them, and they definitely made it. And kind of going with that, what came immediately after the deployment home were academies and providers looking for alternative ways to deliver training. And as most of you know, we have approved BPOCs, have never been approved to be done in this way. We have approved alternative delivery methods for the cognitive portions of the BPOC only. Some of them are using Zoom, some of them are using WebEx, some of them are using multiple classrooms where they have a proctor in there and they're using social distancing and all the requirements. There's a lot of checks that we have put in place to make sure that the training is being delivered. As of last check, we have about 44 that are using this alternative delivery method. And we have now some providers have reached out in the last few months wanting to expand this to continuing ed. So we're working with some of those to make sure that there's safeguards in place. A lot of folks have come up to us with webinars, non-interactive, basically just watching videos, no roll call or no attendance checks. Unfortunately, we've had to tell them no on that because there's no way to measure your attendance or how many hours or were you there or were you not. And to feed right off on that one, we were already in the process of updating our distance education manual. Well, you can only imagine the times now has changed that drastically. So we are rewriting the rewrite to meet current technology and current standards that have evolved out of this COVID training experience, because we know we don't want to be behind the curve, even when we know and look forward to the day when COVID's not the topic of the day. But I think this has changed the landscape of training drastically, and we're going to have to see how we can be in front of that to manage it, ensure that it is secure and it still delivers the quality of training we expect. I don't know if any of y'all have had calls. The last thing that I've got, We have a lot of concerns, or used to be concerns. They're addressed now with the BPOC exam. I don't have the numbers here with me, but the pass rates are moving up. We have a lot of academies with a 100% pass rate at this time. Every academy that I've talked to, I've reiterated to them, we've told y'all this is new. Everything is testable. A lot of them learned some hard lessons through that, and I think we're getting there, and we're working with all of them to make the solutions. And that's all I have. If y'all have any questions, I'm definitely here to answer.
Commissioners, any questions? Okay. Thank you very much, sir. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Director Grissom.
Good morning, commissioners. Credentialing is rocking on normally. As Mike said, we've experienced some times where we had people in the office, people out of the office. We've done the best we can to maintain continuity, and we're thankful for Jessica and the IT staff that's allowed us to do that. We haven't seen a decrease in productivity. One of the things that we are seeing is a marked increase, as you can imagine, of out-of-state applications to be peace officers in Texas. There appears to be a fleeing of the coasts by peace officers, primarily New York, California, Los Angeles area, and Illinois, primarily Chicago. So we're looking at about rough estimate about a 50% increase in out-of-state officers coming to Texas, wanting to reciprocity or going through the reciprocity process to challenge a state exam to become peace officers in Texas. We recently updated one of the technical assistance bulletins so that people, governor's office gave us the authority to reissue temporary licenses is a means to help primarily sheriff's departments with the COVID response. So we are continuing to do that. We are continuing to issue remote examination waivers for the psychological exams. Most of the professionals doing the L3 examinations are not holding offices or not doing interviews in office. So we're accommodating the remote process and continue to see generally 3 or 4 of those a week. The field service agents are back in the field doing the audit and technical assistance process. We're trying to be mindful, as Brian pointed out, of travel costs and trying to get the most out of our travel budget for those trips. But that's basically all I have from credentialing and field services, unless you have any questions.
Commissioners. Commissioner Hester.
Dr. Grissom, when you say a 50% increase, what is that number on a given? Is that a monthly number? Are we talking like 50, 100?
That's some days we're getting 8 to 10 applications a day. I can get you more concrete numbers. That's more of an anecdotal number from Rainey Trevino, who processes those applications, just trying to take the pulse of what's happening in credentialing. I arrived at that estimate. I'd be happy to get you a more concrete number.
Okay. I think maybe a historical, it doesn't have to be anything that's going to take a lot of time, but just kind of what you're seeing historical wise would be beneficial.
Well,
Um,
for example, she has 59 pending applications as of this morning. She's got 59 that she's in process with.
Okay. Well, I just trying to get an idea of what the number was, because when you say 50%, that's a large percentage increase, but what's the end, like what's the number of
Right,
that would be?
right.
So, and do we have, transitioning here a little bit, do we have any pending academy licenses for approval that have we caught up with all of those?
Mike Antu would have to answer that. I'm not aware of any, but that's actually in his side of the shop.
We have one that is upgrading from a contract provider to an academy. Believe it is Pearland or League City. I'll go find out. And Mike Dickey just went and did the on-site the beginning of this week. We have two that Chris Verde is working on. They're still working through some document processes. They're county agencies. But as far as any that are waiting on an on-site, no, we are caught up.
Okay, good. I'm just making sure. I knew we had some, with the travel restrictions and the COVID issues and everything else, that caused a little bit of delay, and then you pile on everybody trying to get their training requirements done. And so I just wanted to follow up on that. And Colin, my apologies for putting you on the spot on that, on something that should have been Antu's. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Yes.
You bet. Commissioner Hester, just so you know, once the governor lightened up, hadn't totally opened up travel, but lightened up on travel to more essential to stuff that needs to be done, not only the academy processes, but new agency processes have been caught up. Or at least are back up to where they should be. And all of those processes are back in place. We're not behind on anything right now.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys.
Any other questions? Well, we will move on then with Director Grigsby's report. And I would imagine that you are getting ready for the session.
Yes, ma'am. It's certainly a busy time. Of course, not only just the regular legislative session and all that comes along with that, but of course the much belabored sunset process. It's definitely helped us earn our salaries around here lately. So of course that is the first item on my agenda today. As the Executive Director mentioned, we have our hearing that is Monday. And I wanted to kind of run through the next steps beyond that just really quickly. After that meeting, there will be a decision meeting that the Sunset Advisory Commission will hold, where they actually vote on the recommendations that are contained in the staff report that will be discussed on Monday. And that decision document will then turn into a piece of legislation. So we will have a bill that will continue our agency, that will go through the normal legislative process and all that goes along with that. It will go through a number of amendments as it goes into each committee and before each floor of the respective chambers. So really Monday's hearing is the first in many steps in the sunset process. So we are really just at the beginning. Once we get done with session, of course, and that bill is signed by the governor, then we will have the implementation phase. And so there's much to be done in the next year and a half. Of course, again, back to session, bill filing started the Monday after the election. And in the 3.5 weeks since then, there have been 10 bills that make modifications to 1701 that have been filed. They include the George Floyd Act, which we anticipated, that really makes a number of changes to the profession, both on the licensee level and the agency level. And so we've been in discussions with a couple of offices about that and what that will ultimately look like. There have, of course, been bills filed that affect training, as there always are. And Most recently, as of yesterday, there was a bill filed by Representative Phil King that modifies the hiring process and addresses some of the transfer of employment records issues that we've been talking about for quite some time. So much more to be done. Bill filing will end mid-March, and so anything can happen between now and then. Moving on, the next agenda item will take action to induct names for the Peace Officers Memorial Monument. And I wanted to kind of give y'all an idea. The committee that plans the annual ceremony has been meeting for several months now, and we are still unsure at this time whether the traditional ceremony will be able to be held on the Capitol grounds as it normally is. And so I just wanted to let y'all know we are looking into alternative site options just as a backup plan. So I don't have any finality to that yet. Of course, we don't even have officially a new Speaker of the House, and he will have to weigh in heavily on the decisions as to the opening of the Capitol to the public and what events can be held on the Capitol grounds. So, but just wanted to let you know we are making plans and contingency plans and contingencies to contingencies. So my final piece is a reminder that Achievement Awards nominations are due at the end of this month, at the end of the calendar year. And so just as a plug out there for anybody who happens to be listening, we know there have been a tremendous number of events this year that would certainly warrant achievement awards. And so I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of that process and how to fill that form out on our website to get those nominations in. And that is the end of my presentation, unless you have any questions.
Yeah, Director Grigsby, could we go ahead and get the awards announcement out to the various professional associations as well as the labor associations so that everyone has an understanding of that? We have so much great work going on throughout the state, and we want to make sure that as many people are nominated and recognized for their great work.
Of course.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Commissioner Hester.
Gretchen, a couple of follow-up questions on the achievement awards. Are you guys looking at alternative location in case the Capitol's not available during that time frame?
The short answer is yes. We haven't gotten very far in those discussions just with everything else that's been going on, but that is something that we will start planning here very quickly, and we will make plans to have alternative options available. Yes. Okay.
The second one is a follow-up probably to a little bit of what Brian talked about with you and the Sunset Report. And he mentioned that you guys were looking at implementing certain things that were in the Sunset Report that didn't require legislation or things that were pretty easy to do. Which one of those specifically is staff already working on to implement it out of that?
So some of the discussion has centered around our IT and contracting procedures. And so as Brian mentioned, that we are looking at what training options are available and making sure that all of our contracting procedures now and for any future contracts will meet all state requirements. We want to be sure that we are 100% above board and following all the requirements that are set forth by the legislature and the comptroller and the various entities that are involved. That also includes one of the recommendations deals with a code of conduct and whether the state should have one set forth. And so I will give great credit to Director Grissom. He has been doing quite a bit of research on what other states have in place and looking at how we could potentially use those, piggyback off of them, or implement them wholesale in Texas. Those are the primary ones that we've been looking at lately. And if there are any specific ones that you have questions about, I'm happy to address those as well.
Yeah, I don't have any specific questions. I just wanted to know which ones y'all were looking at, because there's always ones that may not make the final cut or are really easy for staff to implement and get instituted and going, because you know, if everything holds true through this and it's another 2-year sunset review, 2 years sounds like a long time until you're implementing large significant change in an agency, and then it's not significant time. The staff is going to be really pushed to get some of those things implemented. So the earlier that we can get on some of those, probably the better that's going to be. And that was just my general question about of which ones they were, so that we could kind of have a general idea with that. And just as a point of reference, when you talk about the contract one, I know the agency took a hit on the one, I guess it'd be the TCOLE's contract. What's the name of that?
PCI.
Yes. And so just, you know, yeah, so that one, you know, just for everyone's awareness with that, that thing's been around for a very, very long time. Probably, Brian, I'll let you expand on that, but probably 2 or 3 executive directors ago, and you know, that does not meet current guidelines today, but we were already kind of bound to it from years and years ago.
Yes, that's correct. That's the oldest contract that I've ever seen at this agency, and it goes back, I believe we're more than 20 years into it. This third portion is a continuation. So like you're saying, it was already framed in a big way. So the continuance of it did not include some of these modern provisions that the state likes to see.
So,
Commissioner Hester,
I guess my other,
go ahead, sir.
I guess my other question on that one is, I'm assuming there's, you know, a lot of the ones today have a 30-day out clause or some, you know, some exit on it to be able to renegotiate that. I'm assuming this one didn't have that because of those standards that were put in a while back.
Go ahead, Brian.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Go ahead, Kim. Go ahead.
And Commissioner Hester, on that, it was pretty obvious that Sunset wasn't real comfortable with the way that contract has gone, the length of which, and everything that goes with it. And the one thing I don't know that they really grasped during that time, that we've had some discussions since that time, is that when we re-upped that, I believe like in 2019, the last 10 years, I may be on, Brian, if I'm wrong, it's off by a year or so, but we just re-upped the last 10 years of that. We actually looked at alternatives. We've looked at alternatives, and they want us to look at alternatives. The trouble is, we even went through a new process that DIR has that they call an idea ticket, where since we don't have the money to hire a consultant to come in and tell us exactly what would be required to come in and redo that contract or redo that whole process with a new company or whatever that might be, that those consultants cost more than our budget is to begin with. DIR has a new process called an idea ticket, where they will give you an idea of it. And so we gave them what we were looking at, what Sunset was talking needed to be done in this this Uber process and system that would work. And they came back with a ticket from anywhere from 11 million to 18 million. Well, when my annual budget is 4 million, and my IT budget is $80,000 a year, 11 to 18 million dollars is like not beyond even dreaming. And so I want y'all to be sure and understand that we haven't blindly just continued on this contract without looking at, is there something better? Is there a better way? Is there a more efficient way? But everything we've seen is absolutely cost prohibitive. And, you know, we had a legislator come into the office and actually spend 2 or 3 hours with us going over some budget things. He works with House Appropriations, and he was kind enough to give us that time. And matter of fact, he came in at his suggestion, and we talked about some of these issues. And he kind of made the point that I don't disagree with. PCI is a $0 contract for the state. It costs the state literally nothing. And so it's kind of hard when you're comparing, do I work on improving what we're doing here versus at zero cost versus an $18 million contract to start over, which one makes more fiscal sense? And so it's a very complex issue that Sunset got into, but I didn't see that they grasped the complete depth of that, to be quite frank. But this legislator, kind of give you a picture of my world, actually said, well, this is what's $100,000? And I nearly choked. I mean, $100,000 for us is big money. You know, I mean, that's a major part of my budget. And we've struggled to cover 5% cut, which is $300,000, has been almost devastating to us. So to act like 100,000, that sometimes they don't. I think they lose sight of what being a small agency with a small agency budget actually looks like. But we've had real good support, and we're going to get there. But I wanted y'all to know this isn't stuff that we haven't looked at. This is not stuff that we've not addressed, or at least looked at possibilities. But we're trying to find the doable best way forward, and I think we're going to get there. I really do. But I wanted you to know that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think my other thing that I would say to Brian and staff on that side is, as we move forward and as the agency continues to, have different things added to us during this legislative session, it's probably good to start, I'm sure there's a roadmap internally that staff have of these are things we're working on, 5 years out. Probably one of those things that needs to be worked on is a business requirement document for a new system in TCOLE that functions a little bit easier for everyone. And so that's a large undertaking, right? A business requirement document for a system of that size and scope and flexibility is going to be a huge, large project undertaking that, there's just not a lot of people to go around right now to be able to do that. So as we start talking about that and looking at in the future, right, that 3, 5, 8 years down the window, I would ask that Brian, that you guys, start looking at putting something together with that. That's kind of a living document. So it's not such a big task whenever it comes time for that.
Absolutely. And I'd like to pat Jessica on the back. She's actually done a whole lot of legwork on this already in submitting the idea ticket. They need a full idea of what you're needing, what it does, what you don't want it to do. And she's got a lot of that already tackled. So yes, sir, I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Madam Chair, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Commissioner Burris.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on what the executive director was saying related to IT and what Jason, this discussion's been about with, our budget, the reality versus kind of what we would like to have and what we need to have. And I think we might have talked about this a little bit in the last meeting, but I'm not really sure. But, I was one of the ones interviewed by the Sunset Committee. And, this was a topic that we got down into and discussed. And, I obviously said things like this is our budget, like this is the reality versus kind of the expectations that are on us. And I know that that you guys also had these same discussions with them. I think some of what's playing into this that we're kind of not talking about is the historical issues with other agencies and the problems that there have been with other agencies and kind of the politics and all of the issues that surround those things. So I kind of felt like there was a bit of that inquiry from them. What are you guys sure really what's going on? Kind of questions framed in that kind of a way. And so I responded. I was very confident that we're doing all we can do that we are aware of what's going on, and this is what we have. So this is the best we can do with the resources that are given to us. That's all I have to say about that. One of the other things I wanted to bring up is when you guys are discussing if you're able to keep working towards implementing some of these recommendations that don't require any kind of legislative action, I would like to know ahead of time kind of where your thoughts are on some of those, because personally, one of the recommendations that, well, there was a couple, but one that really stood out to me that I wasn't very comfortable with was their recommendation to develop the penalty matrix. You guys know my background is the federal system, and to me, when I hear a penalty matrix, that makes me think of sentencing guidelines and things like that. And there's such a difference between that system and what we have in Texas, where you have some flexibility. Not every situation requires, what is in essence a penalty matrix in the federal system. And so I see problems with that in my work, and that's something that was like really big red flag to me. Yes, you want to know these are possible penalties for whatever choices officers make in their personal or work lives out there. But at the same time, if you don't have some flexibility, what happens is it just becomes, this is what it is. And at least, like I said, in the federal system, the mandatory nature of guidelines are no longer mandatory, yet the sentencings are exactly the same. And so I don't want us to fall into something like that with this kind of a structure. So that was one that I've had strong feelings about. There's a couple other things. So I would like to know, obviously what you mentioned, making sure contracting procedures are on track in IT. These are all very obvious things that are good to work on. But going forward, if there's other things that kind of may have a slant to them, I would like to discuss those more.
And if I can address the penalty matrix there very quickly, with the way some of those conversations happened, is really what Sunset is trying to make sure is that similar situations receive similar consequences, right? So we use as we call it, the garden variety DWI situation that comes in for an informal conference right now, allowing for, mitigating circumstances and aggravating circumstances, things like that, making sure that like situation is treated in a similar manner. Of course, all of that comes within the confines of what the rule sets out for possible consequences when it comes to criminal convictions. But they wanted to see that tighten up a little bit where it's not somewhere within that 90 days to 10 years, where it's a little bit more standardized, and having that in writing. And so that was one of the things that I was referencing that Director Grissom has looked into. There are other states that specifically have, if you are convicted of this level of offense, and you can get points added or subtracted for aggravating or mitigating circumstances, this is the penalty that you end up with. So I don't know if we want to go that concrete, but they would like to see a little bit more standardization, even though we think that generally in practice, that's what's been happening through the informal conference process. We do take into account what similar situations in the past had been given. They wanted to see that a little more formalized.
Thanks, Gretchen. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I just, I don't want to go too down to the point or the year, because then it doesn't allow for any kind of mitigation or, you know, things of that nature. But yeah, thanks for the follow-up.
Any other questions? Thank you, Gretchen. We will move on to Mr. Beecham.
Madam Chair. I'd make a motion to approve the executive staff reports. Oh, I'm sorry. John, go ahead. I withdraw.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Good to see everybody again. Speaking of the last time we were all together, I have one thing for you this morning. The last time we were all together, we brought before you a Class A misdemeanor waiver in which, based on the current situation with COVID, the inability to meet in June last year, and we had a gap from essentially December till September, more or less. We had a Class A misdemeanor waiver that we brought to you that had been sitting here internally. The applicant was ready to go by all means. One of the probably both internally unanimously, and I think also by the time it reached you for a vote, you all for a vote, it was unanimously approved. And there was some discussion at the last commission meeting about wanting staff to discuss and come up with a practice that exists within our rules for situations in which there was a review that could be done on a Class A or Class B misdemeanor waiver that could be approved at the executive staff level with the same protocols that are in the rules without having it to ultimately go before you all for ultimate approval. Again, this is kind of a narrowly focused for certain cases, which again, unanimously at the staff level, we know based on the history and the facts of the case and applying those two together, which you as the commissioners have historically approved. The kind of the basis for this was to come up with some flexibility and also create a benefit for the chief administrators. For instance, if they have an applicant who is ready to go, who by all means, by the time it goes through the approval process here, through the enforcement division, through the credentialing division, through the legal division, and approved by executive staff, then for your approval, we wanted to provide some flexibility by practice to expedite the process where the situation warranted. Again, we're dealing with timelines as been discussed in several instances already today, and as we well know, due to COVID and in-person meetings and the uncertainty of when and where and the manner of meetings, we wanted to bring to you this proposed practice, and it's based, in addition to what I've already said, I'm going to give you an example of what it would look like. A Class A or a Class B or a Class B misdemeanor would come in, go through the normal approval processes, the background check through enforcement, the prior credentialing check, and the legal check to ensure that all the components of a Class A or Class B misdemeanor submitted by the chief administrator are there. And at that point, what would happen is, if it's suitable after executive staff discussion, if it would be suitable enough and for lack of a better term, more of a sure thing, that if we brought it to you all at the executive level, we would have, by whatever electronic means or otherwise, have the chief admin and have the license or the would-be licensee appear before the executive staff. We would make a decision and approve the waiver at that point in order to expedite it. However, if for whatever reason there wasn't that consensus or unanimous approval, I should say, at the executive level, it would still go to you as commissioners, and it would still follow the following procedure. This would be just a continued practice of what we do right now, with the caveat as if it were a special circumstance or case, which we felt comfortable as an executive staff approving, we would do so in order and based on the reasons that we discussed, the benefit and expediency and flexibility for the chief administrators. So I wanted to bring that all to your attention as we were requested to do at the last commission meeting.
John, I appreciate it. And let me thank you and your team and really the entire TCOLE staff. This has been unprecedented times and challenging times for all of us. And everyone has been flexible and has adapted to the circumstances. And I appreciate you meeting the needs of the chief administrators, and really ultimately the communities that they serve are the winners, in this. So I appreciate it. Do we have any questions from the commissioners? Okay. Again, let me thank you and the entire TCOLE staff. Great job. And we will move forward to Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Burris.
That's okay. So I'm basically going to sound like I'm contradicting what I just said earlier in the discussion with Gretchen. But if you all are doing this without bringing these to us, and we definitely understand the need to get things moving and have people's lives not on hold because of the pandemic. But in that case, I absolutely want to know what are the standards, not just what your belief is that the commission would do. It's these types of offenses. It's X number of mitigating factors. It's X number of damaging facts. In that case, I guess a matrix, there again, for lack of a better term, is something that I feel like would be warranted. We need to be, I think, as commissioners in agreement that kind of the types of cases that are going to you all without coming to us are something that we all feel comfortable with. So.
No, I think that's a fantastic point, and I agree with you 100% in discussing with the executive director and executive staff. I think first thing, let me be clear on this, commissioners, is this type of situation it's not going to be handed out like aspirin. This is going to be, I would say, very rare, and I agree 100%. I don't see any extra regulatory standards which we would be using, which don't exist already in the rules. And I don't want to commit to a particular fact pattern that's going to be the one that gets approval at the executive level. However, I will use the example which we had in the last commission meeting, and we discussed even prior to that commission meeting, is if we could approve this on the spot, it would be one of those situations, obviously going through the normal routine of reviewing of all of the standards which are in Rule 21130 and which have been set forth by the commissioners for us to look at. And again, this whole process, our experience with it at the executive staff level is more than half of these cases never even get to the commission level because they're denied at our level. So look at it through the scope of that's an even smaller number that you get, and out of that number which you get are going to be that would be approved at the executive level are going to be much, much smaller than that. I'll give you this number for an example. There have been 13 Class A misdemeanor waivers since we started doing this several years ago. 10 of those are still working. 3 have been F5'd. The requests for those have been roughly probably more, have been not double that number, but they've been substantially more. For example, we get requests and they've died down. I don't know if it's simply because the word of mouth has gotten out or whatever the case is. Nearly out of hand, certain types of cases are not going to even be presented as it stands right now to the commissioners. Assault, family violence, depending on the facts of the case. It's not just limited to assault cases, but there are cases to which there's simply, let's say there's a DWI that had an aggravating wreck, and there had been some other fact, whether it's running from the scene or whatever, I'm speaking hypothetically. Those type of offenses, if it's a Class B, we would just simply say, looks like you're going to have to wait 10 years because we don't feel comfortable taking this to commissioners after that 5-year wait, which is the same for the A and the B. So I guess in sum, and I want to make absolutely sure I'm addressing your concerns and all the commissioners' concerns, is we are talking about a rare and extraordinary remedy at this point for cases to which we're willing to stake our trust brought to you, not bringing it to you, that you trust us to take these type of cases that are essentially walk-offs, so to speak. And again, we're talking a very limited scope and number of these.
This is the perspective by which I always take these things. I will only speak for myself here. I trust you guys. I trust John. I trust Kim. I trust all of the staff. What I always keep in mind, though, is what happens if Kim leaves tomorrow and brings in his own staff, whoever this new, him or her, whoever this new person is. And now they carry on with the same kind of informal roles, but we no longer know them. We don't necessarily have that same rapport and history with to know that you're going to do things that we feel comfortable with. So that's kind of always the perspective I take on these things. That, love you guys and trust you guys, but what happens when it's someone else? Yeah, that's where I'm coming.
Appreciate and understand that.
I will tell you, and in a period of being very transparent here and pretty forthcoming, this has been a very uncomfortable, I believe, in the process that John is introducing here. I believe it is for the benefit of chief administrators and for good applicants that sometimes have to wait 3 and 4 months or more to try to get a chance, and they may miss an academy during that time. They may miss opportunities during that time, and so I believe in it. But it's been an uncomfortable position for us to be bringing this to you, because it could easily be construed as, well, TCOLE, the executive, just wants more authority. They want more power. They want to make more decisions and not work with you on it. And that's the farthest from the truth here. So you're in all honesty, your comments are very well received, and it has been. I've worried about this and how it might come across, and worried about some of the ramifications of it. But I do believe in it. I was told when we started this whole process by commissioners and by, at that time, presiding officer, don't bring us requests that we're not going to approve, either through something legally keeps them from doing it, or you just know the aggravating circumstances are there. Don't waste our time in bringing us something that for a fact is not going to be approved. And so this kind of looks at the opposite spectrum of that, because there have been a handful that you look at them. The offense occurred when they were 17 years old. They're now 32, 33 years old. They're a decorated war veteran. They're a pillar in their community. They want to continue to serve. There's absolutely nothing on their record from the rest of that time. And we thought that it would be a way to help them move forward on a quicker path. Your concerns are very, very well noted, and I will say up front, commissioners, if this is something you're not comfortable with, we're good with saying no. We think this is a way to help chief administrators and good applicants. But you said you trust me, and I appreciate that, because believe me, I'm not gonna. The process it will go through here is not one person's decision at all. And if y'all do allow us or say go ahead and move forward with this process, or you say okay, this process needs to move forward, it will be done correctly, I promise you. But what happens after I leave and my command staff leaves, I can't speak to, and I understand that concern. I do.
Commissioner Hester.
John Beecham, what if, so this is more like an informal conference, right? You know, kind of a setup, right? Am I thinking right in that of how you guys are looking at this?
Commissioner Hester, it would be just like they do appear just before the commissioners. It would be the same setup, same requirements, same setup. It's just a staff review versus the full commission review.
So if we establish this, would there be any prohibition if the presiding officer appointed one of the commissioners to be a part of this review? Would that?
Let me think about that. I've got some concerns about that, simply because you've got one commissioner apart from the rest. And I'll be frank, I can't give you a black letter law reason why it's bad. It just strikes me as something being off about it, to be real honest with you. I have to trust my instinct on this one.
Yeah.
It seems like an almost advisory commission or something like this. And I'm just thinking practically too. It's a good question. And I think we've thought about and talked through a little bit of this. There's something that what if we have a mixture of commissioners and staff making this type of decision? I think at that point, what happens if there's a decision? I don't know. It seems like to me that it would be putting both staff and the commissioner in a spot to where we're almost. It would seem to defeat the purpose of not taking it to the full commissioners. Then does that make sense?
It does, and it may not be the right way. I was just throwing an option out there because maybe that garners somebody else to be something else. I'm with Commissioner Burris. I'm comfortable as we sit today. I'm trying to think of what she's talking about, you know, down the road of how that would be. So that was my only reason for bringing it up.
No, you never know what's going to happen down the road. It's the principles with the ALS matter sometime, right? It really does, as to who is reviewing these things. And obviously you guys want to make sure it's being done according to whatever policy direction and whatever, you know, where that bar is set for that particular time. And that's 100% understandable. I do want to amend something I said earlier. I said we had, wasn't sure about the number of Class A misdemeanor waivers to which, and this is just Class A's here, that you have not seen as a commission because they've been denied at executive staff level. And I said I wasn't sure if it was half. It is half, but we've had a total of 26 requests. 13 have been denied at the executive staff level, and the other 13 have went to you all. Those all 13 were approved, and of that 13, 10 are still working. And keep in mind, as things stand, they will just remain the same. All Class A waivers that if that's what the commissioners want, it still operates like it does now. The appeals that we deny, or everything will go to the commission level for approval, certainly.
Maybe I missed this, but did I hear you say this is a permanent change, or is this a temporary change because of current conditions?
Commissioner Taylor, this would be what we're proposing right now is at least for the foreseeable future until, as we discussed earlier, uncertainty about in-person meetings up until March and maybe even beyond for the foreseeable future, at least into 2021. And certainly the executive director could correct me on that if he sees that time horizon being different.
No, I see that completely. And once again, this is a policy and practice that at any time, if the commissioners, if we move forward with this, if any time the commissioners feel like it's not working the way it should, or it's just as easily changed. You know, this was simply trying to expedite, even in times, non-COVID times, the timing of quarterly meetings. If we get the Class A request, there are deadlines for getting things on the agenda that go out pretty far. So if the person doesn't get that in and it doesn't have time to get all of our stuff done before that deadline is met, they may have literally a 4 or 5 month waiting time before they're eligible to do this. And in many instances, that chief administrator loses that person, or the person misses academy opportunities to try to go ahead and get started. That was the impetus behind looking at doing this. And yes, that is exacerbated by COVID, but it's not solely a COVID problem, not a pandemic problem. So we were looking at it to go ahead and if this process goes through and this is what we want to do and what the commissioners would like to see us do, it would be on an ongoing basis. I won't say permanent because anything is subject to being changed, but it wasn't solely a COVID deal. I was seeing these delay issues and had some frustration expressed by some chief administrators wanting to get moving with this person long before COVID really came into play. And so it was just an opportunity to try. We look at it as an opportunity to try to help these processes along and let these people get on with their lives in a little more expedient fashion. That's the main impetus behind it.
Commissioner Burris.
Yes, I definitely, I think the executive director's feelings on some other issues are kind of feelings that come up for me related to this topic. On the one hand, I'm not interested in holding people up for 6 months or 9 months needlessly. I don't think, we're not here to just punish. And I do like the kind of more expediency and being on good terms with agencies and all of that. So that's one side. On the other side, at the same time, in addition to what I said earlier about if we do this, it really needs to be with some guidelines that are pretty specific. But like I was saying, on the other hand, I feel like this is one of our enumerated duties as commissioners, and I kind of get a feeling of that we could be abdicating our authorities and duties in doing that because we only have a few functions. And this is one of the really large ones that we have. And when I referred to the executive director earlier and kind of feelings that come up, it's the same kind of thing that it's not that for me, it's not that I want to feel like, well, this is power that I have over someone. It has nothing to do with that at all. It's that this is a duty that is ours. And so I just want to be really careful and thoughtful about how we go about this.
Commissioner Whitaker.
Yeah, hey, John, thank you very much. Is there a reason why, and I completely understand meeting 4 times a year, we miss a lot of stuff. Why on some of those misdemeanors, we can't vote via email when we're not meeting?
Commissioner Whitaker, it's simply a function of meeting outside of a posted public meeting. Any communications of that nature would be a direct violation of the act, and it has to be anytime deliberation of a quorum or more of a public body discussing public business. It has to be in the open format of an open meeting, and obviously like an email vote or something like that would certainly qualify as an ultra vires act, which would be in violation of the Open Meetings Act.
Very good, John. Thank you so much.
But I will say that's why we can't do that. It's a violation, as John said, of the Open Meetings Act. But there's no reason that we can't have more meetings, especially since we're doing them via this forum now. I mean, it's saving us money on travel and all that. And so there's, in my opinion, there's no reason that we can't have, at least for the time being. We don't know if we're going to be allowed to continue doing this into the future, or if it's, just during the pandemic exceptions. But that is always something for us to consider. Do we want to meet more frequently?
Commissioner Hester.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Commissioner Burris's point, I was thinking of 2 things. First off, I was thinking of, we could always have a special called meeting, post it in the register, follow the rules, and do everything whenever, a staff came to us and said, hey, because we only have to post it for 14 days, if I remember right.
Less than
John,
that. It's
okay.
easy, less than that. Yes, sir.
And, so there is a way that we could change our practices as commissioners to be able to meet the needs of what we're talking about here. Secondly, to what we're talking about today, I'm not sure that I'm 100% comfortable. Would this be something that would require a motion and a second on this action of policy, or is this a blessing of procedure of how you would do things?
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on you, Commissioner Hester. It would be simply a blessing of a practice, was all it would be. Because as the rule stands right now, the appellate rights, obviously if they get turned down at staff level, they still get to go to the commissioners. And it wouldn't be necessary, other than the way it stands now, it would just be an alteration of practice as it is at this point. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I guess I gave some numbers earlier, and this is something to think about. Like, it is a practical matter, and Kim and I were discussing this, I think, as recently as last week. Practically speaking, we have not received a Class A or a Class B waiver request, probably most recently 2.5 months, 3 months, something to that extent. So I guess maybe I wanted to add that to give us, so we could get a handle on kind of the scope of what we're talking about here as well.
Yeah, I understand the scope of it. I think my other part of this is I'm sure there are people both in the regulated community, associations, and the general public that may have some kind of input, thoughts about this. And the manner in which we're giving action to do this today, there's not an opportunity, unless somebody's logging in now, to be able to provide input on this. And so I'm a little apprehensive to take a change currently. I don't know, it may not be appropriate, but I'm just thinking in my head about it.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Let me make the suggestion. I am absolutely sensitive to the concerns that I'm hearing and respect them greatly. Let's withdraw this for a topic of discussion right now. And if you would like, we can put this on the March meeting as an agenda item where if we choose to move forward and we find a way to address the concerns, the couple of things that Commissioner Burris has said, especially resounded with me quite a bit about how she feels about advocating a responsibility that is y'all's, and I absolutely understand that. So I don't want to seem wishy-washy, but at the same time, I'm very sensitive to concerns that have been stated here, and I think it's better that we hold off on this until we've done a little more to provide you with something that maybe address some of the concerns, if we do that at all. So it'd be my suggestion at this time that we, sorry, John, that we hold off on moving forward on this potential decision until we get a chance to be a little more prepared for it.
No, I think we are on the same wavelength. I was thinking the exact same thing. So I appreciate the thoughts, and we will defer to March if there's still a desire to have further discussion about it.
May I also say before you leave, and John, I'm not trying to preclude anything. Have you completed your report, sir?
Oh, yeah, unless there's any more discussion on this.
Madam Chair, I got to take just a moment and say, you've heard from pretty much my whole command staff here today. Can you see why my world is so good? I have the best people, and I hope you can see I'm very proud of this agency, and I'm proud of my staff, all of my staff, and especially proud of my command staff. And I think you've gotten a taste of that today from you've heard from every one of them today. My life is good because I have great people to work with, and I just wanted to take a moment and thank them and tell you that.
Yes, you are very blessed, sir. So we will move on to agenda item 5. Before we do that, let me go ahead and thank my colleagues for the discussion. I think it was some good questions, great discussions. Appreciate people sharing their thoughts and concerns. So thank all of you. But we will move on to agenda item number 5.
Madam Chair.
Gretchen? I'm sorry, Commissioner Burris.
I believe Commissioner Hester started to make a motion to accept the reports before he cut off Mr. Beecham. So he can come back and make his motion now, I think.
We have an option of either making a motion or not. We have traditionally not. So Mr. Beecham, unless you advise me otherwise.
I don't think we had anything actionable in there other than if there's certainly not a requirement for the motion unless I don't think I heard anything actionable, and that certainly could not be the case. But unless you want just approval of the reports, obviously sans the action on the general counsel's report, that's certainly an option, but it's not a requirement.
Okay. I think if your discussion, the discussion surrounding your report, I think had gone further, then I think we would have definitely needed a motion. Commissioner Hester?
I'm good. I'm sorry, I forgot to remute my mic.
Okay. Commissioner Burris, would you feel better with a motion?
No, it's not necessary, but I felt like we usually do it, just to accept the reports as presented.
Mr. Beecham, can you give me historically? I want to be consistent with our past history, and all of you have a longer history than I, so I will.
I think it would be a good idea to do a motion.
We will do a motion. No, do we have a motion?
Go ahead, Jason. I'll second you.
I'll make a motion to approve the executive staff report.
I will second your motion.
We have a motion. And we have a second. Ms. Jackson.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yay.
Commissioner Burris,
Yay.
Commissioner Griffiths,
Commissioner Griffiths. If you'll continue, Ms. Jackson.
Commissioner Hester,
Yay.
Commissioner Hood,
Yay.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yay.
Commissioner Whitaker,
Yay.
Commissioner Lemo.
Yay.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you. Director Grigsby, we will get to you. So we are on agenda item number 5.
Hello again, Commissioners. It is now my honor and privilege to list before you the names to be nominated for the Peace Officers Memorial Monument that would be inscribed at the upcoming Peace Officers Memorial Ceremony. The first is Deputy Sheriff Jose Luis Blancarte, Kinney County Sheriff's Office, August 23rd, 2019. Police Officer Nicholas Lee Reyna, Lubbock Police Department, January 11th, 2020. Police Officer Alan Daniel McCollum, Corpus Christi Police Department, January 31st, 2020. Deputy Sheriff Richard Edward Whitten, Liberty County Sheriff's Office, February 3rd, 2020. Senior Deputy Christopher Scott Corselius, Travis County Sheriff's Office, March 18th, 2020. Corrections Officer Amanda L. De Leon, Texas Department of Criminal Justice, March 20th, 2020. Police Officer Justin Putnam, San Marcos Police Department, April 18th, 2020. Deputy Sheriff John Andrew Roden, Bell County Sheriff's Office, April 26th, 2020. Corrections Officer Coy D. Kaufman Jr., Texas Department of Criminal Justice, April 26th, 2020. Corrections Officer James D. Coleman, Texas Department of Criminal Justice, April 28th, 2020. Police Officer Jason Knox, Houston Police Department, May 2nd, 2020. Deputy Constable Caleb Daniel Rule, Fort Bend County Constable's Office, Precinct 4, May 29th, 2020. Police Officer Edelmiro Garza Jr., McAllen Police Department, July 11th, 2020. Police Officer Ismael Chavez, McAllen Police Department, July 11th, 2020. Police Officer Sheena Day Yarbrough Powell, Beaumont Police Department, August 9th, 2020. Investigator Lemuel Delray Bruce, Houston Fire Marshal's Office, October 16th, 2020. Sergeant Harold L. Preston, Houston Police Department, October 20th, 2020. And Sergeant Sean Rios, Houston Police Department, November 9th, 2020.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, do we have a motion? Commissioner Burris?
Make a motion to enroll and induct the officers listed in the Texas Peace Officers Memorial Monument.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Ms. Jackson?
Commissioner Atkins,
Yay.
Commissioner Burris,
Yay.
Commissioner Griffiths,
Yay.
Commissioner Hester,
Yay.
Commissioner Hood,
Yay.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yay.
Commissioner Whitaker,
Yay.
and Commissioner Lemo.
Yay.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Madam Chair, if I may, cut in just a minute. I did vote yay in the previous motion. I had a little delay in my feed here, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Griffiths.
Thank you.
And Ms. Jackson, you did get that?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. We will move on to agenda item number 6, the discussion and taking action on proposed revocation, suspensions, and other disciplinary actions. And I believe we have Mr. Raymond Winter from the Office of Attorney General with us this morning. Mr. Winter.
Good morning, Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, we can.
Thank you. Nice to see everyone. The first enforcement items for your consideration are default suspension orders. These individuals, licensed jailers and peace officers, all engaged in misconduct. They gave rise to the institution of disciplinary proceedings to suspend their commission-issued licenses. All of these individuals failed to respond to notice of the executive director's enforcement action and thus are now subject to the entry of default orders suspending their licenses. The executive director therefore recommends that the commission issue the default orders suspending the licenses of Oscar Acevedo, Bernhard Berend, Reginald L. Broadnax, Melissa Cruz, Taylor A. Dobson, Mark A. Gonzalez, Rahim Habib, Kaylin W. Kruger, and Breanne M. McMillan.
Do we have a motion? Commissioner Hester.
Madam Chair, I move that the commission accept and adopt the recommendations of the executive director to enter a final order to suspend the license that Mr. Winter read that are listed on our agenda.
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Commissioner Burris. Ms. Jackson.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yay.
Commissioner Burris,
Yay.
Commissioner Griffiths,
Yay.
Commissioner Hester,
Yay.
Commissioner Hood,
Yay.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yay.
Commissioner Whitaker,
Yay.
Commissioner Lameau.
Yay. Motion passes. Mr. Winter.
Commissioners, the next two individuals engaged in misconduct that led to the institution of disciplinary proceedings by the executive director to revoke their commission-issued licenses. Neither of these individuals responded to the executive director's notice of the enforcement action. Therefore, they are subject to the institution of default orders revoking their licenses. And the executive director does recommend the commission approve and enter the default revocation orders in the matter of Lauren E. Adams and Terry J. Carlisle.
Do we have a motion, Commissioner Hester?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that commission accept and adopt the recommendations of the executive director to enter a default final order to revoke the licenses of Lauren Adams and Terry Carlisle.
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Okay. We have a motion and we have a second. Ms. Jackson.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yay.
Commissioner Burris,
Yay.
Commissioner Griffiths,
Yay.
Commissioner Hester,
Yay.
Commissioner Hood,
Yay.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yay.
Commissioner Whitaker,
Yay.
Commissioner Lameau.
Yay.
Thank
Motion
you.
passes. Thank you. Mr. Winter.
Commissioners, the remaining disciplinary matters on your agenda are for your information only. They're broken down into several categories. You have a number of individuals who received deferred adjudication or community supervision for felony offenses. as well as receive felony convictions, both of which categories result in automatic statutory revocations and suspensions of their peace officer and jailer license. Again, it's by operation of law. No action is required by the commission, and they are listed here for your information. Also, there are a number of individuals who surrendered their peace officer and or jailer licenses and other commission-issued telecommunicator licenses as a result of negotiations with prosecutorial authorities, typically as part of a plea agreement. They are also listed. And then finally, there are a number of officers who received automatic suspensions for failure to comply with statutory continuing education requirements, which are also by operation of law and listed for your information only. And the executive director staff is available if you have any questions about any of these individuals or categories.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Any questions? And turning to the TCOLE staff, I am not aware of anyone that signed up to provide public comment, which would be agenda item number. Sorry, could someone from the TCOLE staff confirm that, please?
Madam Chair, there are 2 items in the public which should be in your commission meeting materials. One should be an electronic mail that was submitted after the last commission meeting, or excuse me, after the last commission meeting, and one comment card that was submitted. Unless there has been any additional comments that have been submitted or requests for comment this morning, I just want to bring your attention to the 2 written public comments that you should have in your meeting material as is.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Okay. Agenda items 8 and 9 are executive session and returning from executive session. We will not be going into executive session this morning. Have a couple of comments to make, but let me ask my colleagues if they have any other questions or comments. I don't see anyone's mics going live. So again, I want to thank everyone for joining us here today, for your flexibility and adaptability. I know that 2020 has been an unprecedented and incredibly challenging year, not only for us individually, but for this country, for the world, for this state, and I think for our law enforcement profession. My hope is that 2021 will be a better year, but I think that it will also bring us some unique challenges. We will still be dealing with the pandemic, at least for the foreseeable future, and according to the experts, well into 2021. We have the legislative session, as has been mentioned, and that's always interesting. We have the implementation of many of the Sunset Commission recommendations and the changes that will come from those implementations. And I think the continued focus on our profession, the law enforcement profession, and the changes that we will need to make. But hopefully, I always like to be the optimist here, but I think 2021 will also provide us with many opportunities. We have several vaccines on the way that will hopefully address the pandemic, and I hope 2021 brings the end to that. We have the opportunity, I think, to build relationships with and in the trust of our communities, and I believe that TCOLE will have a major role in that. I think that TCOLE has the opportunity, and the state of Texas has the opportunity to establish best practices and improving our profession and moving the profession into a new era of policing. We have I think a challenging year still ahead for us, but again, I think we have a lot of opportunities in 2021. I think I could probably speak for all of my colleagues, and that we're honored to serve, and we're proud to be able to serve the profession and our communities, as well as Governor Abbott for his appointment. So I wish all of you and your families a Merry Christmas, a safe Christmas, and one filled with joy and peace. So please be safe, and I need to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion, and do we have a second? Commissioner Whitaker.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. So the December meeting, TCOLE quarterly meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, commissioners.
Merry Christmas, y'all.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to
Merry
everyone.
Christmas. Thank you all. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.